Thank you. I'm calling to order this meeting of the Fredonia Village Board, Thursday, February 19th, 2026. If everyone would please stand and the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk Johnson, could you please take the roll?
President Lenz.
Here.
Trustee Eipert. Here. Trustee Frank. Here. Trustee Abeglin.
Here.
Trustee Searing.
Here.
Trustee Van Roon.
Here.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is public comment. Please note that public comments that are limited to 5 minutes per person. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, approving the minutes of the Thursday, February 5th, 2026 Village Board of Trustees meeting and approving the general fund water and sewer invoices.
Motion to approve consent agenda. Two questions, please. All right.
All right.
What was a twin mattress and bed frame for?
The fire department.
Oh, fire department.
Paramedics,
What was the bada bing food purchase for?
fire meeting.
Fireman, okay. Thank you.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Any abstaining? All right, next item on the agenda is a presentation from Administrator Jenkins on the 2025 end of year financials.
Thank you. All right, well, I'm excited to present to all of you. This is our unaudited results of 2025, that fiscal year. We believe it or not, we are in 2026. We are going to just overview very high level the budget itself and where the actuals came in at. As a reminder, as always, our budget is just that. It's a budget. It's a best guess of how we thought we were going to do throughout the year. We make some mid-year adjustments depending on some categories within the line items and how they've changed throughout the middle of the year. But then by the end of the year, however it ends up is how it ends up. And that's what we'll present tonight. First, we're going to talk about our budget strategy, which aligns with our second priority for the village, which is responsible fiscal policy. This can get broken into 3 different categories. The first is being fiscally sound. We continuously review all of our services, our programs, and everything that we do within the village on whether it's a monthly or annual basis to make sure that we're really best bang for our buck. We're community focused. While we offer a small amount of services, we make sure that they're high level and they're high quality. We're determined to maintain that as well. And then finally, we're employee focused. We have a small but mighty staff, and with that, we maintain wage increases, we have flexible work-life balance, and a very competitive benefits package to ensure that we can recruit, retain individuals to work here in the village. So first, we're going to look at our general fund. So our general fund should be the most important fund for you all, but it impacts our tax rates and how we utilize those taxes. The first, we're going to look at our revenues. We budgeted about 1.15 million tax revenue to come in. We actually collected 1.2 million. The biggest reason for that is omitted tax dollars from Guy and O'Neill. You guys remember the board took longer, had some ups and downs with values with Guy and O'Neill. This was eventually corrected. See a little extra amount of tax dollars that we meant to collect previous years, but we now collected in 2025. Next, we have our intergovernmental revenues. These are the ones that we receive from the state of Wisconsin and the various aids that we collect. Those came in just as we predicted. Licenses and permits, those are like your building permits, your alcohol, like things like that. We came in a little under budget there. That's primarily due to construction, kind of seeing where we've had to guess each year that, oh, this is a big year that the industrial park's going to boom, and then it's come a little under. Well, I confidently tell you this is the year the industrial park's going to boom, and we'll reflect and capture those revenues in this year. Our public charges, fines, and forfeitures, it's just what it sounds like. It's when we get a traffic ticket, we get a little bit of proceeds from that. Budget about 5,000, we got about half of that, so if you're mad, ask partially to do more ticketing. And then we have our other revenues, this is our catch-all for everything else. So this could be the transfers from other funds, it could be the reimbursements from the town, it could be events, donations and things like that. We budgeted 153, we received 233. The largest chunk of that is the 80 donation that came in right at the end of the year, that kicked us up over budget in our general fund. So overall, we projected 1.7 million in revenues and we collected 1.9 million, which reflects a 9% increase in those funds. So I will pause there. Question on the general fund. Okay. Yeah. Yes, you.
I was checking which one's correct. Is it for the public charges, is the year end correct or the percent correct? Which one's off?
We collected 80% of our budget, so 5,000 is the amount. I'm sorry, you're right. That's that. Yeah, you're right. Percentage is correct. The amount of money is correct.
Okay.
2,394. Should be closer to about 50%. Good catch. See, we even proofread this earlier. Oh. All right, next we're gonna look at general fund expenses. Our general government is our larger catch-all area. This salaries for employees, it includes our insurance, our assessment fees, building inspections, and everything else. We projected 386. We were slightly over at 395. That's primarily due to a lot of the insurance changes that we did last year, and we will project those savings, see those savings in this fiscal year. Public safety, we budgeted 255 and came in slightly under at 248. This public safety category is the primarily Marshal's office, so we saved a couple bucks there. Thank you, Marshall Lee. Public Works, we budgeted 519, we came in at 591, so it's a 40% increase in our expenses there. This is primarily, as we all know, due to equipment maintenance or things that fell apart, the more repairs we had to do. Same thing with parks, although it's just only a 7% increase, we budgeted 120, came in at 128, this is due to parks maintenance as well. Conservation and development, this is a tiny little fund that we use for economic development things, marketing, we run the budget for that. And then finally, our fund transfers, at the same time that we transfer from the general fund to any of the other funds, including our own savings, we obviously did all of this. And so the objective was again the 1.7 million, expenses came in at 1.8. But when you match that to the general fund incomes of 1.9, you're still in a healthy spot. So two things to remember here is talk about fund balance, we'll talk about it more, we'll talk about the snowplow a little bit later. We always want to make sure that we're adding to our fund balance, which means that our revenues are going to exceed our expenses, and that difference rolls over to that general fund balance. We can confidently say that we've done that. In addition, even if you take out the 80 donation, remember in each annual budget, we're setting aside money for rainy days. So beyond the 80 donation, we even set aside hundreds of $1,000s in our reserves. Again, we purposefully set aside money for rainy day. So we're in a pretty healthy spot there. All right, next we're going to talk about our other funds. So again, we have all these different funds in our budget. In practice, fund balance accounting, which we segregate our dollars into individual funds, depending on the operation that they are for. So we look at our CIP fund, this is our capital improvement project fund. We budgeted a little over $1 million, received more than $1 million in our CIP. It's primarily due to bonding that we had done 2 years ago, rolling over to this year, but I can also add in a little bit of grants, donations with splash pad, things like that. The debt fund, this is the amount we collect on the tax roll to pay off our debt. We budgeted 377, but we collected a little bit less. If you remember, we had a little bit of fund balance in our debt fund that we were able to utilize, that we didn't have to impact our taxpayers as much. And that allowed us to also then pay off that $106,000 loan we got for skid steer about a year or so ago. You'll see that next slide as well. The fire fund, we estimate about 505,000, came in a little under at 485. Main difference there is our ambulance revenues came in a little under than what we had planned. Not that we want people to get hurt, of course not, but when there's an increase in those call volumes, we receive an increase in those revenues. But if there's not as many calls, we don't get as much revenues. But regardless, we still have trucks to keep up with, people to pay, and equipment to buy. Same thing with the paramedic fund. We came in, we budgeted 426. This one's a little different. We do have some ambulance revenues that come in for that fund. That's primarily a fee that go through all of the municipalities and churches to that fund. So the way that works is we look at the end of the year, we decide, okay, we spent this amount of money, and receive this amount of ambulance revenues, we have this much of a gap. And then per the formula in our intergovernmental agreement, we split out that share, which we each of the municipalities. Those invoices were sent out, and I think they have to put in March to get it paid, and then that'll make us whole with that fund. Our TIG fund, we estimated about 1.2 in funding. We received about 1.2. Again, this is primarily the borrowing that we had done once upon a time. Now that we're done spending money in the TIG, I'll not see that number nearly as high anymore. Water fund, we're now into our utilities. We projected about 1.5 million in revenues. We just got just a little bit under that. This is a mix of those actual utility revenues when you pay your utility bill, and of course the large injection of the $1 million for the water tower. Again, this is the one-time thing. You will see that moving forward. Lab fund. This is again the fund that we had set up a couple years ago to operate our own wastewater treatment plant lab. Thanks to our wonderful director Eric Collis, who's not here, but he's here with us in spirit. And this is a testament to that work. Those that remember, we started this fund in the negative. The hopes that it was to grow and succeed as a program, and this is now evidence that it is. Budget 43,000 of revenues, we got 68,000 of revenues. That's primarily due to those municipal partnerships and residential partnerships and virtual partnerships that we're making that are generating income into that fund. And then finally, the sewer fund, that sewer utility, we budgeted about 1 million and collected to just a little over that. Again, primarily just the sewer utility fees that we collect. So that's a lot of information. I'll pause there if there's questions on our other fund. Shame that I messed up any other percentages. Okay. All right, now we're going to look at the expense side. So we'll start with our CIP fund. We spent a little bit less. Okay, I realized right there. We spent a little bit less on our CIP fund, about 200,000. This is primarily due to the different items coming under budget. We talked about every kind of win that we had. There was a road project or some equipment that was positive for us. Our debt fund, again, we budgeted 377. We ended up spending a little bit more when we paid off that skid steer loans. That's reflected there. Our fire fund, we budgeted 505. Again, the 435 matches what it was on the revenue side. Paramedic fund, same thing. 426 what we were budgeting for, came in at 398. Then we got our TID. We budgeted about 1.2 million. It came in about 1.3. The biggest discrepancy there, if you remember, was all the add-on to the lift stations. So we found out we had to do that towards the beginning of last year. We had to incur those costs in order to make those lots usable. And then we get to our utility funds. Our water utility came in just perfect. Our lab fund generated a little bit more expenses, but as we know, it's offset by the revenues. And then the sewer fund came in just wonderful as well. Something to note is as we look at our payroll structure of the village moving forward, we'll probably look at doing less part-time employees to try to replace with at least one full-time employee. The way that we do that is through this lab fund. I bring that up because you need to have a special kind of person who is certified to be able to run a lab like that. Thankfully, we found that person who's worked part-time for us. But in discussing with Director Paulus and what are the needs of the village, he's willing to sacrifice and take away some of those part-time jobs. We can replace somebody with a full-time person, which I said is fine as long as we have the revenues to support it. And so I'm happy to see that we're starting to turn that curve and we're going to be able to support ourselves. So that way, whether it's 2027 or 2028, when we come to you all and say, hey, for the first time, we need to add additional staff, we'll have the ability to just. So I think that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, you can digest this information and keep talking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next on the agenda are the report on operations of the village, starting with the village president. I don't have a lot to talk about, just a couple of things. I want to mention that the paramedic program is now fully staffed. I'm sure that Chief Weicker is going to talk about that a little bit as well, but I wanted to highlight its progress in providing greater levels of safety to the village and our partner communities. So I just wanted to highlight that in my opening there. I also wanted to point out that due to strategic investment in equipment such as a sewer vac used for repairing clarifiers and blowers used to relocate waste efficiently, our DPW is able to handle emergencies at the wastewater treatment plant quickly. Investments like this provide long-term benefits to the village while keeping costs low. And that's all I've got. Any questions? Village administrator.
Feel like you just heard me talk a lot, but I'll go through my report quickly here. First off, I gave you an update on the Stony Creek subdivision. We had a call with Ramble, who is the environmental company that's doing some of the monitoring. Good news, they found that the plume that is underneath some of those properties there is shrinking. It's getting contained, which we appreciate. Bad news, the DNR wants to do more testing, because of course they do. And they want to do that in some residential homes that are within 100 feet of there. So they showed us the notice that they were sending out. So in case we had any questions, or really residents have questions of us, we're able to answer that confidently. So they're going to do their testing. Hopefully they can get their answers throughout 2026. And then if they have positive results from that, then again, knock on wood, they're hoping that we'll have a resolution here in the next year or so. In the industrial park, Director Paulus and I were answering a number of questions from a company called Greasile. I don't know if any of you guys use their products, but they are looking at 755 Tower Drive. It's one of our vacant properties that's currently owned but getting leased out. They're looking at going into that spot, but they were concerned about the materials and various contaminants that they might put into our system. So we wanted to make sure that it was going to be something that we could tolerate within our sewer system, and it sounded like it would be. So we continue to have a dialogue with them. They were pretty adamant that they're going to be putting in an offer soon, which is great. The Fredonia First Incentive Program continues to build awareness. We're starting to have builders and buyers come in and ask questions. We had a gentleman just in here today, which is really exciting. So we hope that that'll grow. Hillcrest Builders, as I've been reporting my weekly update, we finished up our draft developers agreement with our attorney, kicked it over to them for their review. And then as soon as we get a red line version from them, that's when it will be a first appearance for you all as well. So again, it's been a long time coming to have something in writing with our friends at Hillcrest. Really, that's a win-win for both them as developers and our community. So I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll get that done. Next up, we've been preparing for our 2026 two-year bond package. As I had reported, we have a couple different options. We could go out to the open market for issuance. We could go to the state trust fund for borrowing, or we could look at a local bank. Through our financial advisors, we weighed those different options and found that our local bank actually gave us the best bang for a buck, which is roughly about 4% over a 10-year term. So we've begun that process with them. We hope that we'll have a package to you all, if not the next meeting, the meeting after that, which will solidify the funding for all of the projects that you guys have already approved. Moving on. I did want to give a shout out to our DPW. I had said it in one of our weekly updates. And I know we talked about it during my eval as well, just like the little things that we do to help save dollars throughout the year. And so I love this example that I gave of this water valve and hydrant that you guys worked on. And it's so easy, and so many communities will just, pull an old one up from the ground, order a new one, install the new one, and then they're done. Well, that costs money. That's like $6,000 to $8,000 just to get a new hydrant and then do the install. And so I appreciate that, as I shared here, our guys were able to just kind of rehab with some existing parts, some new parts, and some elbow grease, save the village almost $5,000 to $6,000 and just replace it ourselves. So little, items like that, and the ingenuity that you guys put forth, just know that it's known and felt here, and I'm sure our board appreciates it as well. Moving on, we had our meeting with the Fire EMS Collaboration Study Group. I don't want to steal too much of Brian's thunder. But I thought the meeting went pretty well. We had representatives from each of the communities there. Trustee Searing was there, asked some great questions, and we got a preliminary look of their presentation, the pros and cons of each of our operations and ways that we can collaborate more. And then we have a shared or opportunity for us all to come together here in the coming month or two that you should have received an invite for, where we could all sit in the same room, all 4 municipalities, hear the same information, and then ask of our consultant really whatever we want. That's why we paid them the big bucks to be here. And so let's make sure we use them and get as much advice and consulting as we can. And then finally, I just want to touch on some grant opportunities that we're working on here. The first one, actually the first couple resulted from our meeting with Stantec. We have one of the opportunities is through the Lake Michigan Alliance. They offer grants to create water mitigation plans. As I noted in my administrator's goals, that was something that I wanted to work on this year, primarily due to the amount of flooding that we get throughout the village and our different waterways, streets, and things like that. So I'm looking forward to working with the Alliance on that. We're also going to be working on some groups or some grants with Stantec and the WEDC to see if we could finally get that restroom facility done in Freedom Park. We've talked about it for years and years and years. And for those that remember, it was a very expensive project to get sewer and water to that park. But we're hopeful with some extra funding opportunities that we might be able to get that done. We applied for an AARP grant focused on walkability and pedestrian safety. I applied for about $15,000, which coincidentally is roughly how much one of those fancy signs costs at the crosswalk that we'll be talking about in a little bit. So cross our fingers for that. And then finally, there'll be some federal grant opportunities for our fire truck. We've talked about it in the past with public safety and with finance. We have a looming large purchase for the village coming with our fire truck. And I do not have a perfect answer for you on how to cover that. So if we can get really any federal assistance, I know that we appreciate it, our taxpayers would appreciate it, the chief would appreciate it. It'll help to expedite this process a little bit more. So I think I've said enough, but we're working on some good stuff and look forward to keep working for the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much. Marshall Leet.
Thank you. Obviously, as usual, we got a lot of work. January is typically a downtime for us. So this is the time of year that I tend to do a lot of my planning. We've already discussed looking at project speeding, some speeding related projects with Fredonia Avenue for later this year, going into the busy season. I think we've already talked about Fillmore and some of the issues with the newer trucks on there. My point here though is this is the time of year. If you've got anything you'd like me to take a look at, any concerns you want our office to look at addressing, this is a great time for me to hear it. Ordinances that you think might need another look for us to take a look at. I know I've worked with Trustee Vanderoo a couple of times on similar projects, and I'm always more than happy to do that. So if there's anything that you'd like us to look at addressing this coming year, now is a great time for me to get that. As I said, January is usually a downtime for us, and February is usually a downtime for us. So I'd be more than happy to hear them. Other than that, that's probably all I have today.
All right. Well, thank you. Any questions?
Just one question. I saw the largest presence that I've seen since I've been living there at Spring Hill Apartments Tuesday night. Do you have any information on that?
Where?
Spring Hill Apartments, South Milwaukee Street.
I do not.
No information. Thanks.
Yeah. I guess is that with the sheriff's department?
I thought it was all county, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
There was like at least 6 people there.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, Marshall Lee.
Okay.
Chief Weicker.
In my report, talk about a training that we did during the month of January. We've had no new volunteer membership applications that came through. Special notes, Pete already had mentioned that our firefighter paramedic staffing is fully staffed now. We have 3 full-time, which is Crystal, Sam, and our new hire Mike that starts on Monday. And then we have part-time Dean and Josh, and then a new hire Nathan, that started back on February 2nd, plus this part-time. So that's a good thing, that's a little off the shoulders there, to have that employee staff. Looking forward to Mike starting and, having that coverage 24/7 for our residents here. Call volumes, fire incidents for the month of January, we had 8. Rescue incidents here in the village, we had 25. And then ambulance, calls, we had 43 that were responded to, and there was 1 paramedic intercept, which was to my grass will return next month. And then something that wasn't noted here, as Chris had said before, we did meet with the band associates and went over the study and results. I don't think that there's anything, I don't see that there's anything surprising in the study, when it gets presented. It's stuff that I think that we have all talked about already, production of apparatus, working together with the fire departments that are already here in place, and we're doing a lot of those things already. So, look forward to April 2nd, and it's the date that is, the next meeting where everybody's gonna be invited to come, and I strongly urge everybody to come there and be ready to ask questions.
All right. And for the fire incidents, are we gonna start separating the?
Yeah, so, so that similar, so one of the things that came out of this study was talking about the mutual aid stuff, when we respond somewhere and when we get responded to from other departments, so the help that we're giving and the help that we receive, separating that out, reporting on that, and also the number of members that we have responding to calls and our response to them. So some of that breakdown, I have to figure out how I'm going to lay that out, so it doesn't get too crazy with data. Yeah, definitely, Ed said that to Michelle, I think it was on Tuesday when I was in here.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief Weicker. Public Works, Brendan.
I have nothing new to add to Mr. Wallace's report, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Anyone has any?
Anyone? Thank you very much, sir. Clerk Johnson.
Believe it or not, the website migration is still happening. But it seems that they can't successfully separate village and town content. So they are having a meeting of all of their bigwigs, and hopefully we can keep the ball rolling. Our April 7th spring ballot was approved. I worked closely with the county and WEC and our legal team because of the special election to ensure that it meets with all of our statutory requirements. And it went to print, so no takesies backsies. The electors with a request on file will be sent a ballot by March 17th. We're planning a visit to Forest Haven also on March 17th and 18th if necessary. And IPAB begins on March 24th. And then we did a flurry of grant meetings, the meeting with Ramble for Stony Creek subdivision, and small structures grants that could assist with the reconstruction of the culvert on South Milwaukee Street. And then all of the day-to-day operations of the village.
Thank you. Any questions?
Have you been communicated to why there's like all these issues and why it's taking so long? Like, do they have any understanding?
Yeah, so this started back in very early October. We signed a contract with Civic Plus, who is our vendor now, with the understanding that the new platform would be able to support the functionality that our existing platform has. So they migrated all of the data over. We've been kind of passed around a little bit. We're on our 3rd project manager at this point, and the rubber has really hit the road. So they have to figure out whether or not they can put the time in to successfully separate the content. Like, I mean, and it's not my wheelhouse. Can we tag every single item? Can we, put permanent filters on some of the pages? So they're discussing it with their IT team on Friday at 4. And then on Monday, we'll have our meeting with them to see how we can proceed.
And I would just add, the important part is that one, we didn't ask for this upgrade, right? This is
Yeah.
something that they brought upon us. And two, they promised that they'd be able to do this without changing our contract fee, right?
Right,
And so we're sticking to it.
yeah.
So are we getting billed extra for the time it's taking?
We're not getting billed at all. So there's no cost to the village. There's no increase in cost versus what we did last year. It's a migration because the platform that we're on currently is no longer functional. Well, it won't be functional on a certain date. And we need to be moved over to a new platform. And the functionality there is different or doesn't exist in the way that we were told it would. So apparently our existing website can stay online at least through mid-year if they, if we do have ongoing issues. So there won't be any interruption in communication with residents. It's just something that I've been talking about since mid-October.
Is there an opt-out or anything where if they can't figure it out, you can just cut your ties and find someone else?
So I know that Administrator Jenkins has been looking into other vendors. I will say that Civic Plus is kind of the gold standard for municipal websites, even though this experience does not really speak to that. So I would like to stay with Civic Plus if possible, but we're to the point where the rubber has hit the road. And we'll see on Monday what solutions they can offer us at the same price point that we have now.
Any other questions? Thank you, Clerk Johnson. Treasurer Upson. Don't know why I have a problem.
Easy.
Yeah, I know, right?
Basically all the, normal monthly tasks. Last week, the auditors were in a couple of days. A lot of work of, whatever they were asking for. There were some adjustments that I did that typically Baker Tilly, the old auditors would have done, just to, kind of help out with the fees, because, it's things that I understand and I can do easily, over the next, few years or however long I'm here. I will be working with the new auditors to hopefully maybe take over more things that they are still doing kind of on our behalf, just to make it so it's more of a true audit versus them doing, extra accounting, bookkeeping tasks. So those are things that I'm looking forward to working with them on. So far, they've been wonderful to work with. I'm enjoying working with them. Then yesterday I worked with Workforce, our software package, to add on the AR modules so that we can do all the miscellaneous billing for like the lab and the wastewater type things with like holding tank stuff that we get, just to have that billing more automated within our system instead of, just all the Excel invoices that we've been doing and then all the extra journal entries I do. So this will be all integrated within all the normal Workforce. I was told that there's a very small amount of customers that are on this module, so it still could have some little bugs in it here and there, or if there's any enhancements. They commented that, they're totally welcome to, hear my input with other, things that, might be good to build into it. So that was kind of nice to, know that, that they're that willing to, accommodate things or, and all that. So now I just need to, work on building all like the billable items per se, now that we've got the basics kind of gone through and input and all that. So I'll be working once Director Paulus is back. I'll be working closer with him since it's mostly all, related to his type of things to help alleviate him with, doing some of the ones that he does versus what he hands off to me. So I'm looking forward to all that. Otherwise, a lot of the year-end stuff is behind me now. So I'm looking forward to moving forward more.
Questions? Thank you. We have a report from our building inspector. The building inspector is not here, but we do have a report from them in the packet. Ozaki County District Two Supervisor, I don't think we have. Oh, there is a report. All right, my bad. There's a report from the Ozaki County District Two Supervisor as well. Next item, items for action and or discussion. Motion to award project 2026-02 Fillmore and Stony Creek parking lot and Fillmore culvert project to Ozaki County Highway Department not to exceed $65,120. Administrator Jenkins, any comments?
Sure thing. Just as a reminder, the Public Works Committee reviewed this project. We decided to forego public bidding and instead to go straight to the county for cost savings purposes. You see the results of that in your packet. They were able to mill and overlay the Fillmore municipal lot, the Stony Creek lot, and install a small culvert along Fillmore and do additional ditching, all for around $65,000, and we had budgeted 62. So again, I'm sure we could not come anywhere close to that if we had gone out to public bidding. So this was definitely a good choice. We're welcomed, excited to work with the county on this project. It will take about a year for that culvert to settle. So just something to keep in mind if and when we tackle Fillmore Street, as far as like a mill and overlay project, we do need to wait for that culvert itself to settle. And that was important that Eric wanted me to communicate to you all too. But we'll get this project done here. I should also add that a bulk of the work really will be done by our DPW staff. Sorry, Brandon, if you don't already know that. They'll be the ones that are going to be clearing the existing asphalt, building up that base, and then allowing the Ozaki County to come in and pave. So again, the reason why we're able to get it for such a low cost is because we have internal guys that are willing to do the work too. So I definitely recommend us proceeding and we can get going.
Questions? Comments? Do we have a motion?
Motion to award project 2026-02 Fillmore and Stony Creek parking lot, and Fillmore culvert project to Ozaki County Highway Department not to exceed $65,120.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Any abstaining? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, discussion and possible action on the emergency replacement of a 2006 Sterling snowplow truck with Salter. This is something we discussed at the last meeting, and it was decided to direct the staff to look into alternatives. Administrator Jenkins, where are we at on that?
Sure. I'll just give you a quick summary and then I'll actually pass it over to our treasurer who did all the higher math here. But Director Paulus had reached out to, again, some local contractors to see if they could quote doing a per push quote of covering the village for our snowplow operations, at least to kind of buy time, as I know the concern was from some of the board members. In total, the contractor themselves, none of them would do just a section of the village. If they were going to do it, they wanted the entire village because that's what makes it more equitable for them. And so they provided their per hour costs, some built-in equipment costs and salt costs. And that's how we kind of came up with some of the math here that Treasurer Ups had put together. But I'll kick it over to her to explain her chart.
So with the contractor costs at $175 an hour, and then their salt per ton of $250, which Director Paulus basically said that 1 ton is technically used in about an hour's worth of time. So taking that times the 3 trucks that would be needed for the 3 routes, and then the 5 hours of each, that's where you get to the total of the $63.75 per 5-hour event. And then I did our costs for our village. So our employee cost is basically the $48 an hour fully loaded. Our equipment cost is $47 fully loaded. So a total of $95 per hour for each manned truck. And then our cost of salt from the county is $82 per ton. So You take that times the 3 routes, the 5 hours, and we get to the 2657 per event. So, it's a savings of, a little over $3,700 per snow event. I looked up the number of snow days typically in a winter season. Per the website, it gave me, saying like averages anywhere between 20 to 30 days of snowfall. So I just took the mid road of 25. We're currently at 22 plowing days. That Director Pauls had counted. So if we do the, just an average of 25, that's where it would cost us, almost $160,000 to pay the contractor versus internal cost is, $66,000. So, it's outsourcing would be, almost $93,000 more in one winter season if we would outsource this versus our own internal equipment and employees. So if we would move forward, the cost of the new dump truck that would be used throughout the year anyway, is $274,000. If we would look to outsource, I mean, if we would outsource, I mean, we would be less than 2 years worth of cost spent out if we would just buy the truck, at those terms. So, I'm not sure what else is really needed. If you have any other questions, with the higher math that Chris had me do.
Questions?
Well, I think it's safe to know, because Administrator Chris and I have talked about this, their minimum time, even if the minimum would be paying them 5 hours for every single snow. Okay, and I know Brandon Eric says an average is 5 hours. I understand how contractors work, and we have to pay them for 5 hours.
And they want to make a profit.
And they want to make a profit, so they are going to probably, I hate to say it, not take as much care as our DPW crew in ensuring that they are not damaging our roads, damaging our residents' property, etc., because you're gonna hear about it. Clerk, and everybody's gonna hear about it. Outsourcing, if they can do it in 4 hours and get paid for 5, they're gonna do it. So I have concerns about outsourcing it from that aspect, besides the cost.
Other comments?
I mean, just looking at the costs, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, but, just to contest a little, I'm not saying outsourcing is the right idea, but most of these contractors that do this outsourcing for villages and towns, they can do a fairly good job, and I mean, that's what they're getting, they're professionally paid to do that.
I also
They do take
understand
care
that
of stuff.
we have to be the minimum of 5 hours.
Well, that's why they get paid what they do, because they do a good job.
Yes, but I mean, I can also say that they're.
But I still think the truck is a better alternative, because we're gonna pay it back in 2 years of outsourcing, and we'll have it still for summer projects, for moving gravel, for road work, for that parking lot, for everything that we're gonna need it for, even during the summer projects, we'll have that dump truck for, so.
I think the main question is, how are we going to fund it?
That's that guy.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've actually thought about this a little bit more since the last meeting. I mean, I was convinced that we were going to be digging into 2025 fund balance. I just did a presentation about it, right? We have a positive fund balance, and it just really hurt that we were digging into that fund balance. But when I really thought about it, and I looked at 2026's budget, we've allotted, I think it's $156,000 for our rainy day fund this year. And so the way that I would do it, if you guys wanted to proceed, is I would still split it the way that I have here, which is 30% general fund, 20% sewer, 50% water. But for the general fund piece, that about 81,300, I would actually charge that to the CIP fund. We would just transfer more dollars to the CIP fund in cash and then just do less of a transfer to our reserves. So instead of the 156 or whatever it is, it would be about 70 some thousand that we transfer to reserves. And instead we'd be bucketing that 80,000 to our CIP fund to pay for this. And that way we're not hurting the progress that we've made the past couple of years. We're just impacting this year's budget, where that's still contributing to our fund balance. So as the guy who worries about the money every day, I can rest easy knowing that we can do that path. And then we can still meet the needs of this equipment purchase. So. And I can help you make that motion whenever somebody's ready.
Any other questions for Administrator Jenkins? Excuse me. Any further discussion?
And I mean, I will add, I had reached out to a few different heavy truck dealers that I know. And the cheapest one came back with a fully loaded plow truck, which was a Western Star for $293,500.
So this is better.
So I mean,
Yeah.
I think Eric did a really good job of trying to find the best possible price and pushing people to get him a good price, so.
Well, and I think the conversation I had with Director Paulus is that we have the option, working with the county, of actually directly purchasing some of these things versus going through them, which means that Director Paulus could shop around and get the best price versus using whatever they come up with, so we have the potential of actually reducing the cost.
Yeah, well, Andy discussed, and Brandon, you could say, like, he discussed also like taking some of the stuff off of our current truck and relocating it to the new truck, and we have that ability working with the county versus having an actual company come and build it, so.
Well, there's no other comments,
Well, thanks for bringing up the information so we can see the comparison. That's all, just thanks for
Yeah.
digging into that, just to make sure we know what we're
Yeah.
looking at before we make a decision. I
Absolutely.
would definitely be in favor of option B.
all right, I am going to make a motion to approve the emergency purchase of a replacement truck and plow system not to exceed $271,000.
And then I would add to it that this will be split 30, I'm waiting for Michelle, are you ready?
Yes.
30% CIP fund, 20% sewer reserve fund, and 50% water reserve fund.
Repeat that.
No, but I will repeat it. Okay. Motion to approve the emergency purchase of a replacement truck and plow system not to exceed $271,000. 30% from the CIP fund, 50% from the water fund, and 20% from the sewer fund.
Correct. And then when we as staff do our internal 6-month budget adjustments, and that's when we'll make those monies move around like we had talked about.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Then I'll put the question before you. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda, discussion and possible action on crosswalk safety. Administrator Jenkins.
Get to hear from me one more time. So this is coming to you for a different reason than it normally does. Remember that any purchases that are budgeted under $25,000, we typically handle within staff through our purchasing policies. So this is a smaller item, but it came up through our discussions a couple months ago regards to, well, which crosswalks are we going to do? And that was a great question. So we went through a bit of a process here with our engineers reviewing the different intersection options. We did a walking tour throughout it. Director Paulus kind of weighed the pros and cons. We met with our Strand Engineering and we looked at the overall costs. So there's 3 intersections we're looking at all along Fredonia Avenue. One of them is South Wilson, which is by Divine Savior. The other one is South Milwaukee, which is nearby, kind of like bike and walking paths and the railroad. And then we have Wisconsin Street, which is what leads to Marie Krause and the new splash zone. So when we reviewed all of these, there was a few different options here. The main concern was how much stuff do we have to move or add in order to fit these it's called RRFB systems in place. And so for those not familiar, that's what we installed up by Dollar General. Those are those flashing crosswalk lights. They're on both sides. They're both audio and visual for those that might be visually or hearing impaired. And it alerts drivers clearly when it's activated on both sides. So that requires a certain amount of right-of-way, it requires a certain amount of frontage, it requires electricity, and it requires really clearance that some of those intersections and locations just don't have, which was the biggest struggle. So to give you an example, while I think we can all agree there's going to be a lot of pedestrian traffic into Marie Krause, and we would love to see a crosswalk there. If you look at that intersection where the southwest side has a wall there right along the corner. The southeast side has virtually no property. There's a building that abuts right there. Because of those issues that are there, there's no room to fit crosswalks. So the only way to make that work is to install a bump out into the road, which if you ask Director Paulus to install a bump out into Fredonia Avenue, he might lose his stuff. And so for all those reasons, we're like, you know what, maybe we just need to take some time to think about that intersection a little bit longer, and maybe we can have a more creative solution. So that kicked that one kind of off to the side. And so we were left with the remaining ones, again, due to the demand of the intersection and what we can feasibly do. South Wilson was decided to be the easiest one, at least for this year. We only have $15,000 set aside. That gets us about one of these RRFP systems anyway. So what we would do is we'd install it on where the existing crosswalk is on the north, west and southwest sides. So it goes straight into the traffic, straight into the school, where parents are bringing their kids anyway. There's enough room and right of way for us to install all of those, which is certainly a positive thing. But then another piece to this that I want you guys to think about is we talked a lot about the visibility of our crosswalks. So if you look in your packet, I believe it's one of the last pages here, you'll see crosswalk markings. So I don't know when's the last time you've looked at our roads, but we do not have these kind of in-your-face, high visibility crosswalk markings. And these are things that with literally a can of paint, our guys in our marking machine, we can just do that. So even if we don't conquer and deal with all the signs right away, we can at least make them a little bit more visible in other areas of concern. So I say all that to say, I think the solution would be for this year, we recommend installing at Wilson. We'll get it taken care of, and then we'll also explore other intersections, and not just along Fredonia Avenue, but other intersections where maybe we could just, with a little bit of paint, make it a little bit more visible and safer for our pedestrians to utilize. So I will leave it at that. If there's any questions, I know Trustee Frank was in on a couple of those talks and meetings as well. I don't know if you have any thoughts to share, but.
Well, I just showed Rick the three-dimensional.
Oh, yeah, I did include that one.
Yeah, have you seen those? Yes, I think we should do three-dimensional looking.
How good of a painter are you, Brandon?
All good news is Jason used to be a painter before this year.
No.
There you go. There you go.
Questions, comments, concerns? Crickets.
I do know that Derek was very adamant against changing the curve at all.
We plow Fredonia Avenue?
Is that again?
Do we plow Fredonia Avenue?
We can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
Pump out like
They do both, yeah.
the county takes care of the drive, because we have to clean up parking lots.
Yeah. So that's a concern, and honestly, I don't even know if the county would let us install bump outs into the road. My guess is not.
Yeah, they were discussing pump outs, just BPA requirement might be 8 feet into the road.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah, so not to get too much in the weeds, but some of the ideas we had on the Marie Krause entrance was, we might be able to squeeze in on the east side of that intersection, kind of in front of the chiropractic. We'd have to buy some right of way from him, and it's kind of a process, but that would make it more ADA accessible than on the other side of that street, so.
So we might be able to do that in the future.
In the future, yeah.
Setting aside the money for that. All right.
But really, and Michelle knows the number one that we get feedback about is that Divine Savior crossing. It's all the parents and all the kids
Mhm.
crossing.
Yeah.
That's something that you almost every day versus, you know, the Red Cross, we're gonna have some more traffic, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is gonna be vehicle.
Well, the Wilson is going to be 10 months out of the year. Reef Rousey is going to be 4.
Yep.
In Milwaukee is probably every day, but.
That makes sense.
So that can either be a motion or it can all be a nodding of heads, and we'll proceed,
Right.
whatever works for you guys.
You
I like the paint idea, the high visibility painted.
Yep. You ready to paint, Brandon?
Oh,
Do we have a motion for the installation of a crosswalk at Wilson? Do we just want to nod our heads and let them do their thing?
If you just nod your heads, you can't come back and yell at us if we do it.
I make a motion to install an RRFB and improve pedestrian crosswalk signage at the northwest and southwest section of South Wilson Avenue and Fredonia.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Are there any abstaining? Motion carries.
One thing I do want to ask, are we at least going to do the high visibility crosswalk on Milwaukee and what's the other one? Milwaukee and Wisconsin? The painting? Yeah. That's something we can at least minimum do.
You mean at Fredonia in Wisconsin?
Yeah, Fredonia.
You said Milwaukee and Wisconsin.
Milwaukee Street.
Yeah, and Milwaukee and Wisconsin Street.
Oh.
We're not putting,
Right.
All
Put them in both of them, yeah.
all 3 of them have high vis.
Sure. Seems perfectly reasonable. Do we have any correspondence?
No.
Correspondence? We have any items for future consideration? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned. Everything